On today's episode of The Ango Show, we're going to be discussing some major stuff surrounding WWE going 2 hours. And yes, we're going to talk about Money in the Bank and a huge debut for MLW. It's all coming up right here on TAS. Yes. Welcome back to the channel. Don't forget, we are live Monday through Friday, live on this channel, talking about the latest in pro wrestling. Today, we're going to be talking about WWE Raw, so make sure you guys come hang out and check out the stream. We're going to be engaging with the chat, answering your questions and all that good stuff. Definitely don't want to miss it. Okay, let's talk about a huge story surrounding WWE Money in the Bank. This is really cool considering that WWE has had tons of cities and countries and municipalities reach out in hopes of bringing events to their specific city. And according to the Milwaukee Business Journal, Milwaukee is putting together a bid to host next year's Money in the Bank premium live event in the city. And if WWE does accept it, that means they will be taking the event to Fiserv Arena. Officials in the city have previously shown interest in hosting WWE PLEs, with their mayor previously telling the Business Journal that he is personally a huge WWE fan and has had talks with the WWE in the past about Milwaukee hosting a large-scale event. Now, that is pretty exciting because the city hasn't actually had a pay-per-view since the 2017 Fastlane PLE. And it's obviously been 7 years since that. And look, here's the thing, man. WWE is going to consistently do this, right? Cities want to place a bid for WWE events largely due to the fact that WWE, when they come to a city, has a huge economic impact. And I think for the city of Milwaukee, it's not necessarily a tourism city, but either was Detroit for SummerSlam, and nor was Ohio for SummerSlam as well. But the reality is, Money in the Bank is considered the top 5 WWE PLEs. And if WWE were to bring in Money in the Bank to Milwaukee, it could definitely have a positive economic outlook for them. And I think that's huge. I think that's good for WWE. I think it's good for the city of Milwaukee, especially when you could go to a city where the travel isn't that bad. That's huge. And for Money in the Bank, you know, the way I look at it, it takes place, you know, maybe in July or whatever, June, July. We'll see how the pay-per-view schedule goes for next year, but it's not like you'll be going to Milwaukee in the freezing cold. You'll be going when the weather is relatively good. So if you've never been there and you like WWE, it does make a lot of sense to potentially go. Also with WWE, you got to remember that their PLEs that are happening on Saturday nights allow for SmackDown to also be at the same arena the night before. And so if you were going to Milwaukee, you do have the ability to go to WWE SmackDown and, of course, Money in the Bank. But then you also have to remember that NXT also does PLEs on Sunday. So if you want to make a full weekend, it could make a lot of sense where you can go to all three. And I think that's just a really good strategy for WWE. Former WWE superstar Trevor Lee has been announced for Major League Wrestling. This is super cool. I'm super excited about it. I think Trevor Lee is one of the best. You might remember him in WWE as Cameron Grimes. And guys, let me just tell you, realistically, MLW, they got some names coming in, man. And for a company that's small like MLW, I think it's a good thing to bring in some of these names. I think Trevor Lee is somebody who should be on television. He is somebody that should be doing things on TV. The fact that we haven't seen him back at TNA, or the fact that we haven't even seen him sign with, AEW or Ring of Honor, is actually relatively crazy. This is a guy whose in-ring ability is absolutely insane. People might forget how good of a wrestler he actually is because of his previous run on WWE SmackDown. But if you saw Trevor Lee, Cameron Grimes on NXT, you know that he has a really good work rate. Also, I think it's important for us to acknowledge the fact that he is a incredible talent when it comes to delivering promos and having a character, which was very clear in NXT. He was able to get over with the fact that he was a very charismatic character. And it's really shocking, honestly, like to see WWE and more specifically Triple H. I thought for sure Triple H would have brought him in, would have done something with him. And that wasn't the case. And I never really understood that. I felt like WWE kind of dropped the ball there. And it's a little bit shocking to say that because I feel like, Trevor Lee was a guy, came into the black and gold era of NXT. He came in at a time where WWE was bringing in all of these athletes from the indie scene. And it just turns out that he was actually able to do a character and also be a good in-ring worker. It was just like really cool to see that. And unfortunately, it just didn't pan out in WWE. The good thing is, by him going to MLW, it allows him to go and show off what everybody else is missing. Whether this is a long-term deal or not, there's really no information on that. Unfortunately, you know, with MLW, we've heard that not a lot of contracts are guaranteed or long-term. Some people are, some people aren't. But I am intrigued to see what this leads to. We know that he's making his debut. We know that he's headed there. And I'm all for it. So the cool thing is, if this goes well, he's going to kill it in MLW. If it doesn't go well, you know, one of the things that I think people need to know is that, you know, maybe AEW should give him the call. Ring of Honor should give him the call. Maybe TNA should be giving him the call. Nonetheless, I'm super excited about it, and I can't wait to see what happens next. And that's going to bring us to our final topic, ladies and gentlemen. WWE announced on Raw that for the rest of the year, starting in early October, WWE Raw will be moving 2 hours instead of 3. And, you know, I can't believe I'm actually saying this because I have been, you know, doing this YouTube stuff for a really long time. But WWE Raw is so good at 3 hours, I don't want to see it changed. I don't want to see it changed at all. And unfortunately, WWE USA Network, they've come to the idea that with SmackDown moving to the USA Network, Raw will be 2 hours. WWE has not announced this, but I have a feeling SmackDown will be 3 hours on USA. And I think WWE Raw on Netflix, it's going to kind of be a little bit in the middle. I don't think it's going to be 2 hours. I don't think it's going to be 3 hours. I think it's going to be however long they want to go because there is no restriction with Netflix. I am super intrigued by the Netflix deal, but at this time, there is no confirmation as to whether or not Netflix and Raw will be 3 hours. WWE Raw used to be a drag for 3 hours. It used to be a pain in the ass for 3 hours. From a business perspective, like if I'm being transparent with you guys, it used to be the worst thing for my business because I would watch 3 hour Raws under Vince McMahon and it would be boring as hell and it wouldn't be fun. Some things would be really, really good. A lot of it would be really, really bad. And I've pretty much gotten to the point to accept that Triple H has completely turned around the product to the point where watching all 3 hours is enjoyable. So for it to go 2 hours, I don't know how I feel. It's got a large roster. I do think if SmackDown's going to move to 3 hours and Raw is going to be a 2 hour show, I have a very strong feeling WWE will have to do some sort of superstar shakeup, draft, trades, something to balance out the rosters because that is going to be necessary at some point. But WWE made this decision. I'm excited to see what happens. I don't want it to be 2 hours, and I never thought in a million years I would ever be happy about WWE being 3 hours. But luckily, like Triple H has done such a good job with Raw, and it's just a huge testament to what he's done that makes it so enjoyable to watch. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Angle Show.